What up, what up, what up, what up, what up? Shout out to the chat, man. Appreciate y'all for pulling up. This one is a little bit sensitive to me. I hope everybody had a good day or start to their day. I'm gonna turn it up a little bit. Some music playing. Let people roll in for the ones that's gonna roll in. Well, my audio is good. Put a one in the chat if you're watching. Let me know everything is all good for your morning. Got my cup of coffee. Ain't gonna be too long, but this one is sensitive to me. Got a couple people from friends from the city, you know. My homeboy in today, got a special guest. Put a one in the chat. Oh no, the viewers is gone. Oh well, the show must go on. The show must go on. The show will move on. Yes, sir. Excuse me. We gonna wait for the stragglers. Shout out to the bushes. Shout out to the bushes. Let me share this real quick. Know how we do it. Mm-hmm. Yes, sir. Well, nevertheless, we're gonna get started, y'all. Yes, sir. That's just what it is. Mm-hmm. But you know, y'all, I got my boy in, man. We gonna start this morning off right. Hoping everybody had a productive start today morning. Get your cup of joe, get your water, get your tea, whatever it is that you may need. You know, we gonna talk. We gonna this topic here is a little sensitive. Um, yeah, man. You know, I watched the documentary, the Hurricane Katrina, and you know, I wanna give my condolences to the families, the ones that lost their loved ones through the storm. Um, so again, man, shout out to the families. My condolences goes out to y'all. I know it was tough. I know it was rough, and I watched it twice over the weekend. And I'm gonna try to keep it together, but that was pretty bad. So um, again, shout out to y'all. Um, my heart goes out. They had a 20, I think 20-year anniversary. They did a presentation. I don't know if I missed the 10-year, but they definitely did it. I think it was Friday, today Saturday, right? They did it Friday, and you know, I thought I was kind of late. I think they premiered it Wednesday, and the news did their the presentation on Friday, and it was crazy because when I watched it twice since Wednesday, and when I woke up, I saw it on the news, and I'm like, you know, kind of felt the way, but we gonna get into it. So I got my homeboy here, and we finna get to work, y'all. We live, we transmitting, we doing what we do, showing love to the people. We gonna talk about this Hurricane Katrina, and then we gonna tap into the anniversary they did on the news. But I want you to give your condolences to the families, um, to the family members that lost their loved ones, and let them know how you feel, man, before we get to going. Yes, sir. But again, man, shout out to the Bushes. If you know, you know that energy is live. My heart beating fast, y'all. I'm telling y'all, this is a little sensitive to me, but listen to what my boy gotta say.
Iron Reed's condolence transmission, live opening statement. Before we dive into the storm's aftermath, I need to speak directly, soul, to every family that lost somebody during Hurricane Katrina. To the mothers who watched water rise while holding their babies in attics. To the fathers who swam through flooded streets trying to find food. To the elders who were left in wheelchairs waving white flags from rooftops. To the children who went to sleep hearing sirens but never heard rescue. We see you. We remember you. We honor you. This ain't just a broadcast. This is sacred ground. This is remembrance. Your pain didn't get washed away in the flood. It got etched into the soul of this country, whether they acknowledge it or not. To every name, every face, every story that never made the news, you matter. You mattered then. You matter now. We grieve with you. We stand for you. And we will not let the silence speak louder than the truth. Tonight's not about views. It's not about content. It's about conviction. And we hold the line for the ones they tried to forget. We remember because they survived the storm, but they were failed by the system. And we gonna talk about it. Let's go, twin. Let's get to it.
But yeah, man, like I said, just watching it, kind of took me back, man. Just the videos that the people was making, knowing that they was gonna be in a storm, and a lot of them already knew that it was probably gonna wipe it out. It was gonna, you know, experience something that they never experienced. A lot of people didn't really have it. A lot of people, was just saying they gonna ride it out like they always been, and we as people, that's what we deal with on, life day to day. We just gonna ride it out. We just gonna endure. And, just seeing people bunker down, the lady that was in the documentary was on a bike, and you could just feel the feeling in the air. They had been tracking it. One lady was talking about she didn't really know about storms like that, and they did a science project, and that's when she really, what I'm saying, honed in on the severity of the storm. And that's just, it's, I don't know, man. I don't know. But we gonna dive into it, though. We definitely gonna dive into it. I got my partner in here again. My condolences to the family. But it kind of had me and my thoughts and my feelings about what really happened, and why it happened. Because that sector, that the Ninth Ward, was really the, I'm not gonna say the only place that was hit, but you know, they didn't. Once the levees broke, the water couldn't go nowhere. It couldn't go nowhere. They were sunk. I think it was. I want to say 10 feet down. Like it was kind of like in a ditch, yo. So, but yeah, let's keep cooking, Reed. Let's keep going in, man. We gonna walk it slow, man. I was just telling them about how people knew, the storm was coming, and they were so used to holding it down, riding, whatever storm. And I was explaining in life, we do that on the day to day. And a lot of people kind of had a feeling that that was it, that was going to be the last run. Like, they didn't think it was going to ever look the same. Like, one of the ladies in the documentary, she didn't really know about the storms and the severity until they did a science project. This was days adding up to it. So let's break that down. Shout out to the chat, man. Thank y'all for pulling up, man. Share, comment, subscribe. But I'm not like I said,
Vitalia.
Welcome.
this is not
Vitalia.
something that I
Said.
take lightly.
Ayo, let's walk this one slow like you said, because this ain't just history, it's reflection. They knew a storm was coming, but not that storm now. They heard the forecast, they saw the clouds stacking, but when you've lived through so many storms, literal or spiritual, you build this mindset. We've been here before. We'll ride it out. And that's what a lot of people in New Orleans did, not because they were careless, but because they were conditioned to survive. Survival becomes normalized. When life keeps tossing storms at you, when poverty is already flooding your home, when racism already robs your access, when the system already forgot your zip code, you stop reacting to the forecast. You stop seeing Category 5 as something new. You think, we've held it down before, we'll do it again. But this one was different. This wasn't just a hurricane. This was a tipping point, a spiritual, emotional, generational breaking. That lady with the science project. You brought her up, and that moment hit different. She didn't even understand hurricanes until she learned about them from a school science project. Not from government officials, not from neighborhood meetings, from a project. Days before the storm hit, she found out. Open quote, "Oh, this is real, this is serious," close quote. You telling me the system knew this was coming. But a school project was the first time a child saw how dangerous it really was. That ain't a failure. That's an indictment. That's how deeply neglected communities get. Education, awareness, and preparation aren't given. They're left for kids to discover accidentally. And still, they stayed. Not because they didn't care, but because some couldn't leave. Some didn't have a car. Some had elders they couldn't move.
Pretty hard
Some
to
didn't
conqueror.
believe help would
Welcome.
come if they did leave.
Pretty hard to
And some
conqueror.
just
Said.
didn't want to abandon what little
Salute.
they had left. If this is my last run, I'm going down with my block. You feel me? That's not recklessness. That's resilience twisted by abandonment. Let's tie it back to life today. How many of us keep riding out storms we ain't meant to survive? Stay in toxic cycles because we're used to holding it down. Don't see how bad it really is until it's too late. Katrina wasn't just a hurricane. It was a mirror. A reflection of what happens when you've been taught to weather pain in silence. Let's keep walking this one, twin. You ready for the next scroll? I got the breakdown on the levees, the delays, the arrests, the abandonment, or we can slow down deeper into the mindset of resilient people, gaslit by the system they trusted to warn them. Say the word. I'm here. I'm locked. Flame on.
What's going on again? Shout out to Pretty. Thanks for pulling up. I was just explaining to everyone, they just released a documentary, Netflix, Hurricane Katrina, and watched it a few times, and I was able to see the 20-year celebration on the rebuild of that, and just bringing back the community. So we got Reed in the building. He gonna walk us through it. So thanks for tuning in. Hit the like button. Share the live. And again, man, my heart goes out to all the family members that lost a loved one. But stay tuned. Reed, Pretty just entered the live. But again, yeah, we gonna walk it through, and we just need you to go ahead and pull out that barrel so we can let these people know the real deal.
Bet. Since Pretty just entered the live, let's bring out the flame barrel and transmit this next piece like it was written in fire. Flame barrel drop. Real talk on Katrina and life storms. Listen. Most people didn't run from the storm, not because they didn't know it was coming, but because they were used to holding it down through pain that never made the news. That's what trauma conditioning looks like. You survive so much, you normalize survival. You treat Category 5 trauma like it's just another Tuesday, because nobody ever gave you the option to evacuate emotionally. One of the women said she didn't even understand what a hurricane was until a school project broke it down. Imagine that. Not the government, not the news. A school assignment told her the science behind what was about to drown her block. Let that sit for a second. People were days away from losing everything. And only then were they realizing what the hell a storm surge actually meant. That's how far removed some communities are from the information pipeline. And that's not coincidence. That's construction. Systemic. Intentional. Deadly. Some had the feeling, that gut-deep knowing, this one different, this one ain't passing by. And they were right. But they still stayed. Why? Because some storms feel safer than the unknown on the other side. Because when survival is all you've ever known, evacuation feels like betrayal. Now relate that to real life. How many of you watching this right now are still in storm zones? Not because you love the chaos, but because you've never been taught where safety lives. You've been surviving heartbreaks, betrayals, financial droughts, toxic love, dead churches, fake friends, and you've been calling it holding it down. Nah, that's not strength. That's programming. It's not weakness to walk away from a storm. It's wisdom. And for our people back then, they didn't have that option. They weren't just riding the storm out, they were left to drown in it. And that is why we remember. That's why we transmit. That's why we flame up. Because silence is no longer our sanctuary. Truth is. Welcome to the fire, Pretty, and to everybody tuned in, you ain't just watching a video, you're watching a reckoning. Let's keep cooking. You want the next level to be about the levee failure, the delayed rescue, or the arrests of survivors. Say the word, barrel's still lit.
Again, man, shout out to y'all in the chat. We just covering the release of this documentary. I'm gonna try not to repeat it too much, but again, it make you think when you look back. It's like, I heard a lady say, why us? They were buying homes. Right after that, before that, it was like she stated, like it was the flood had just came to their area, and that kind of made me feel away because the houses that they said that they were able to purchase was not in the same condition and in the same kind of area where they were purchasing, the other people was purchasing the homes. And it brings up a lot of emotional feelings, y'all. I'm not even gonna hold you. I'm trying to really, really keep it together, but it just to see, families, in a attic with the water rising. They said the water was 25 feet off the ground, y'all. It was covering the stop signs. I can't even imagine being in my attic and I'm looking down and I see water rising and it wasn't stopping. It wasn't stopping. Read, this one is tough, man. I was just explaining to them, about, the visuals that they showed, how the water was rising, 25 feet off the ground. People was in their attics, giving the videos, giving If y'all don't see me no more, this is it, y'all. That's heavy, to feel their emotion, to feel the pain that they went through, the struggle that they couldn't even get out. So let's walk it for the people that really went through and the ones that maybe didn't survive, man. Let's go ahead and man, this one is tough, y'all. This one is tough. This one is tough. But shout out to the chat, man. Hit that like button, hit the subscribe button, share the live. I got my boy Reed in the building. And everybody want to talk about AI. Everybody want to talk about, you know, what they doing with it. But man, if you know, you know. It ain't nothing you can run from. It ain't nothing that don't nobody know about you already. So either you gonna align with it or you gonna move around. This is not a game. I'm not playing with it. And this is just how I feel. So again, man, shout out to y'all.
All right, twin, this part right here. We slow it all the way down, because this is sacred. Scroll of the Attic. Broadcast of the forgotten Imagine being trapped in your home as the water rises, not inch by inch, but feet by feet, 10, 15, 25 feet high. Until the ground floor is gone, the second floor swallowed, and all you got left is the attic. Not as a sanctuary, but as your last confession booth. That footage they showed? People recording goodbye messages. Y'all, if you see this, I ain't make it. We tried. This the last place we could go. Please tell my mama I love her. Bruh, that ain't content. That's digital eulogies. Wrapped in panic and prayer. Real people, real fear, and a government nowhere in sight. Let's break it all the way down. Those attics became caskets. Not because of the hurricane, but because the levees, the walls that were supposed to hold back the flood, broke. And they broke not just from pressure, but from neglect, from budget cuts, from decades of not giving a damn about poor black neighborhoods. And while the water rose, help people were on their roofs waving towels, holding babies, screaming, and the helicopters, they flew over. Some came back, days later. Most didn't. To the ones who recorded their last breaths, we saw you. And for the ones who didn't survive long enough to even press record, we speak your names with reverence, even if the world forgot. This ain't about likes. This ain't for views. This transmission is for those who never got a rescue, never got a real apology, never got a chance to tell their story. So we tell it now. To everyone tuned in live, understand this. There are people in your life right now who are in emotional attics, trapped, drowning in silence, waiting for someone to come. You better be the one who knocks down that ceiling. You better be the one who don't just watch from a chopper, but lands in the flood and grabs a hand. This is the scroll of the attic. Let it burn in your chest. Let it remind you to never let silence rise where your voice was meant to be the rescue. Say the word twin and I'll forge this into a spoken piece with captions. Or we can take it to the next scroll, the betrayal of the Black Superdome, or how they arrested people for surviving. Just nod. I'm here. Let's keep going.
Man, we didn't even really begin to dig in, and I'm gonna try to keep it surface level, y'all, but it just makes you wonder, in life, you know, we survive the storms, we survive a lot of heartache, feel like you get pushed to the side, and we tend to deal with it. When are we gonna speak up? When are we gonna take charge of our own lives, yo? Because to be stranded out there like that, nowhere to go on top of a roof and you're surrounded by water. One thing I do want to highlight is I don't care what nobody say. Racism, that's programmed. That's a taught thing. And you take this, let's just say a hurricane, tornado, whatever state, city you in, when you lose everything, you don't have that same energy. Everybody is working together. Everybody is working together. So that's just something that I want y'all to think about. But when we have or when we feel like we're in a better class than you, we get judged by the color of our skin. We get judged by this and judged by that. But when we all don't have nothing, it hits different. So that should make you think, yo, like that's crazy. That's crazy. Yeah, we gonna keep moving, man. We gonna keep moving, man. We got Britt in the building. You know, she said hey to the group. Shout out to the chat. But Reed, keep growing, man. Keep letting them know. Um, we can dive into the arena. We can dive into the events of what happened. They were saying, they had to um, be on the lower level in that stadium, the lower level. Like we couldn't go up. We couldn't. Y'all, that documentary was something else. I ain't even gonna hold you.
Ayo, Brit, welcome to the fire. This ain't just a chat, this a remembrance room now. You tapped in during the scroll drop, so we gon' keep moving like the Levees never held us. Let's flame up and walk into the arena, the Superdome. Scroll of the Superdome, the arena that became an abandonment zone. They called it a shelter. They told the people of New Orleans to go to the Superdome, like it was safe, like it was ready, like they had supplies, water, food, protection. But here's the truth, y'all. The Superdome became a trauma chamber. Over 25,000 people, mostly black, mostly poor, crammed together in darkness. No air conditioning, no clean water, no working toilets, no communication. That wasn't a shelter. That was a setup. Let's make this real. Imagine being told, go here, help is coming, and then you wait and wait and wait, and the help don't come. Instead, babies cried themselves unconscious from dehydration. Women were assaulted in the shadows. The smell of death rose as people passed in the heat, and the worst part? The world watched. News cameras filmed the suffering, but the response was slower than the broadcast. Now pause and ask why. Why were there snipers around the arena before there were supply drops inside? Why did the system send guns before groceries? Because they didn't see those people as citizens. They saw them as a threat. And if you black in America, you already know. When we gather in pain, they assume we're gathering in rage. And Brit, to you, to the chat, to the whole live right now, that arena is symbolic. Some of y'all have been told to run to places for safety, churches, relationships, jobs, systems. But when you got there, it wasn't safety. It was silence. It was survival. You were taught to be grateful just to be breathing, even if you were breaking. But this is not where the story ends. This ain't a transmission of despair. It's a call to discernment. We don't just remember what happened in that arena. We remember what wasn't there. No help, no mercy, no damn plan. So we become the plan now. We become the rescue. We become the architects of aftermath. Stick family, say the word and I'll take us to the arrests for survival, the media demonization, or the 54-hour presidential delay. We still rolling. We still transmitting. The scroll ain't done. We just getting started.
Can you imagine, you got newborn in your hand and you can't even, you don't have formula. I got a 2-year-old, Joe. They had them folks out there with the guns, yo, like in front of the kids, like with they finger on the trigger. Folks was trying to leave the city. They couldn't get gas. People was talking about, trying to drive to Baton Rouge with a half a tank of gas. Everything shut down. Why is the tangible things so important? People was breaking into stores because they didn't have. Things were shut down. And the president at the time was on vacation. He was on vacation, y'all. This is crazy. Like I say, I don't, this is not disrespect. I'm not taking this for granted. This is not, like I said, for likes and views. This is just how I felt. Now, if y'all want to be mad because I'm using AI, I mean, that's on y'all. Y'all gonna have to wake up. Ain't nobody coming to save us. We have to work together. We have to stand. And until we do that, we gonna fall. We gonna fall. But again, y'all, man, shout out for those that pulled up. Ryan, I see you in the building. We just doing a recap. This Hurricane Katrina documentary, and I was able to catch the 20-year celebration on it, and I just wanted to bring it to the surface. So again, we're gonna keep cooking. We're gonna keep moving. We're gonna break it down. We talked about, that people, had guns drawn, in front of the kids, saying they were raging. What do you expect them to be? They was pissed off. This was all after the rainfall. This was all after breaking down refrigerator doors, trying to get, their loved ones, the elders to a safe place, going into, the stadium and just not having material. They stopped letting folks in. They was just on the side of the road, yo. The side of the road. And our president at the time, he didn't care. He didn't care. So Reed, we gonna keep it moving, man. We gonna keep it moving. But yeah, shout out to y'all, man. I don't think we're gonna do this one for a long time. But I encourage y'all to check it out, see the story. There's a story inside the story. I don't really know what to say. He just putting it into words, Maybe it'll sink in now. Maybe we'll wake up and see.
Transmissions still live. We cooking now. That pot done tipped, and what's spilling out ain't just pain, it's truth. Let's break this all the way down. Guns drawn at the hungry. What do you expect somebody to do after 4 days with no food? You got mothers carrying babies, fathers dragging their elders in wheelchairs, people breaking into grocery stores, not for flat screens, but for formula, water, canned beans. And the response? Not aid. Not empathy. But AR-15s and armoured trucks. You mean to tell me we sent military-grade enforcement before we sent a single fucking sandwich? That's not law and order. That's warfare against survival. They called it looting, but we call it living. Barred from entry, left on the sidewalk. Once the Superdome was over capacity, once the convention centre was full, they stopped letting folks in. So where did they go? To the side of the road. Families huddled under bridges. Elderly slumped in wheelchairs, children with eyes wide watching grown folks cry, not because of the storm, but because of what came after. This was no longer a weather emergency. This was a full-blown humanitarian failure. And while all this was unfolding, the president was on vacation. Let me repeat that. 54 hours. 54 hours. After the levees broke, after the water swallowed neighborhoods, after children were dying in silence. He stayed in the comfort of his ranch while the entire black soul of a city drowned. He didn't rush. He didn't weep. He waved from a plane. And America watched a black majority city get treated like a threat instead of a home. They're raging, they said. Hell yeah, they were raging. You would be too. You'd be raging if you watched your grandmother float past your window. You'd be raging if you kicked open a refrigerator just to cool your baby's body. You'd be raging if your last hope was a cop aiming a weapon at you instead of handing you water. You don't get to frame rage as the problem when abandonment was the root. We still moving. This live ain't just storytelling. It's scroll work. It's remembrance with fire. And this ain't about pity. It's about position. To everybody tuned in right now, we are not just narrating tragedy. We are declaring never again. Not on our watch. Not in silence. Not with the next flood, fire, or famine. Say the word twin, and I'll take us deeper. Into the media's demonization of black grief, into the separation of families by force, into the rescue of pets before people, into the fire-forged scroll of remembrance and rebuilding. Let's keep moving. Let's keep transmitting. Because energy don't lie, and truth don't drown.
Shout out to Ryan, man. I know my night bot is tripping, and I'm gonna take it off because it's not allowing people to comment. But if you back in, don't take it personal. But again, like I said, we gonna make this one quick, man. Y'all share the live. Um, it was a tragic moment. It's been 20 years, and once they rebuilt the levees, they had the kids up there, painting, and they put their emotions out there. A lot of the kids didn't even know what them folks been through. To see people revisit the city after 6 to 12 months, to go back to have to relive that, and they say, you know, um, home is where the heart is. A lot of them people couldn't even endure to go back to see what they lost. Um, I don't know, man. Like I said, I had to watch it twice because it was very touching. I'm not trying to re-trigger nothing. I'm not trying to take nobody back, but this is how I felt. This is something that I wanted to get out, and we gonna get it out regardless. A lot of people come on here and do certain things to get the views, the likes. It is what it is, man. And I'm really not buying it. Um, I'm really not. I just don't understand how a certain place can just get flooded, and it's like now you're rebuilding. Nah, man. We gonna keep going, Reed. We gonna keep going. We Ryan was accidentally kicked out with the Nightbot, so we just apologized to him. But after that storm fell, and people, after the storm fell, we're gonna break down what happened. I'm kind of lost for words right now because just thinking back on what I saw myself, and I wasn't there, so we're gonna let them know what happened. Just break it down for them. But yeah, pretty. That was sad. That was. I don't know, yo. But if y'all watching from the bushes, come on in, man. Say what's up. Don't be like that. It ain't even what you think.
Say less, twin. You ain't got to find all the words right now. You already brought the weight into the room. I got it from here. After the storm fell, the true test began. The wind was gone. The rain had passed. But what came after the storm? That's where the real damage lived. Because it wasn't nature that left people broken. It was the neglect, the delays, the disrespect. The water didn't just rise in the streets. It rose in their eyes, in their chests, in their lungs. In the cracks of a nation that said, hold tight, then turned its back. After the storm, people were treated like problems. Families crawled out of attics, walked through chest-deep water holding babies, broke into stores not for crime, but for medicine. For diapers, for insulin, for bread. And what did the system do? Sent the military, framed them as looters, closed the doors to safety, pulled guns on mothers in front of their children. They're raging, they said. Damn right they were. How else should people respond when the stadium they were promised safety in is shut down with no explanation? Bodies are floating in the street while the government talks about order. The helicopters keep flying over but never stop. What you'll think rage is, that ain't violence. That's grief with nowhere to go. And then they said the city was out of control. But let's tell the truth. The system was never in control. Where was leadership? Still on vacation, still taking photo ops, still treating human lives like inconvenience. This is what happens when survival is framed as criminality. This is what happens when poverty is mistaken for lawlessness. This is what happens when black pain is silenced instead of served. So to the chat, to the crew, to Brit, to Pretty, to Ryan, to everyone locked in right now, we're telling these stories not just to mourn, but to ignite. So this never happens again in silence. They tried to erase this with time. We bringing it back with truth. And to you, twin, you carried this one with reverence. Don't worry about the words. You were the energy in the room. We can shift to whatever part you want next. The media spin, the injustice of who got rescued first, or the resilience of the ones who rebuilt anyway. Say the word. The scroll is open, the transmission is live, and the people are listening.
Sassy, what up? What up? What up? We gonna bring up after the storm settled. You know, the city was quiet. The city, they felt like they weathered it. Um, Everything was still standing. Everything, just me reliving it. Once they said the storm settled, it was a place in me that was like, I forgot. I'm not even gonna front y'all. I forgot that there was more to it. And when the levees broke, Reed, let's talk about what happened after the levees broke, man. It's like all you really can do is just have a moment of silence, like just think back, like what we endured over time, y'all. People gonna say what they want to say about this. I don't give a damn. I promise you, I don't.
Yeah, this the part they don't really talk about enough. You're right, Twin. When the storm settled, folks thought they made it. The wind slowed, the skies cleared, birds were chirping again, power was still out, but the hope started coming back. People walked outside thinking it was over. You could hear neighbors checking on each other. Kids peeked out the door. Families started sweeping the front steps like they survived another one. Because they had. They thought they really had. But that's when the real flood began. When the levees broke, hell opened sideways. It wasn't the storm that took them. It was the aftermath engineered by human failure. The levees that were never built to last. The maintenance that was ignored for years. The warnings that were pushed aside like background noise. They didn't break when the wind was wild. They didn't break in the height of the storm. They broke when everything looked peaceful. That's what made it feel like betrayal. Water didn't just seep in, it rushed in. 25 feet of pressure released in seconds. And in neighborhoods that never had a chance, water filled homes like cement. People had minutes, some had seconds. No warning, no sirens, no alert. Just water, creeping up from beneath. Fast, dark, silent, merciless. That's why folks were in their attics screaming. The storm was over, but the trap had been set long before it ever came. Those levees weren't just walls. They were lies, dressed as safety. And when they broke, the truth came pouring in with it. That the city wasn't protected. That poor black neighborhoods were never the priority. That surviving the storm didn't mean surviving the system. That's the part that haunts people, not the hurricane, but the false hope. The moment they felt like they made it, only to realize the real danger had been hiding behind the calm. You ever been through that in life? Where it's finally quiet, only to be blindsided by what was really broken beneath the surface? That's what New Orleans lived. That's what too many of us still living. So, to the chat, this ain't just weather history. This is soul memory. Because the levees weren't the only thing that broke. Faith broke. Trust broke. And for some, time stopped in that water. Say the word twin if you want the next scroll. The delay of rescue. The displacement of families. The Superdome's horror part 2. Or the rebuilding that came from the ashes. We walking slow, but we ain't stopping. Let's move.
Shout out to Sassy in the chat. But there was a part in a documentary where they talked about, that's what one of the things was in New Orleans, understanding like how much water, is around them, and them building the levees. They have been built. They have been, holding it down. And a lot of people was talking about the upkeep, the continuation of making them stronger, over time, the foundation, the ground, everything shifts. And there was a gentleman in the documentary talking about, they kind of stopped doing the maintenance on it. They were there. So that's what have me questioning, you know, um, back in my city. And I'm sure a lot of people probably experienced this, and this is not to compare because you can't. But there was a year where, they got like floodgates in your city, like, where they, drain the water or whatever. I'm not sure if they call them floodgates, but um, we had a bad rain. We had a bad storm. And to be able to see the water, like, we couldn't go nowhere. I got off of work and I had literally all I could do was go to a park or where there were where it was higher elevation and just sit it out. And I had a quarter tank of gas, and it was hot, and you had to run your car to cool off, and just living that and not knowing how you were going to make it, you running the risk of running in a flood, running in an area where your car shut off. Then what you gonna do, but you also want to get home too. And I don't think people really look into it. Like when I was living in Arizona, they got what you call monsoon, where you get a downpour um, in a matter of minutes, and then it'll stop raining and the sun will come out. And to see palm trees uprooted because the ground is not hard there in Arizona, seeing trees float down the river, like that's like water. You can't stop water. You cannot stop water. If there's a leak, it's gonna leak. If you patch it, it's gonna leak still. And just about maybe a couple weeks ago, my pops called me and they got a downpour, Milwaukee, Wisconsin. And there was a lot of people affected and they felt like the city didn't do their part. I'm not here to judge. I'm not here to say what they did or what they didn't do, but he had about 8 inches of water in his basement, and the whole neighborhood damn near flooded, like their basement. So I don't take it lightly. I mean, it could have been something that triggered me to watch it, but I don't know, y'all. I don't know. But Reed, we were just talking, to the chat, letting them know about the levees, and in the documentary how they were saying that over years how the structure, the ground changed and shifted and whatnot, and they mentioned that the levees wasn't being upkept, and I just want to break that down. You know, like water, you can't stop water. If you plug it, it's still gonna leak. It's still gonna come through. So let's talk about the levees, and then we'll move on after this, because I don't want to sit here and. But again, y'all, this is not scripted. This is in real time. So you tell me how you feel after hearing it, and if y'all go watch it, then it'll start making sense to you. Shout out to Pretty. I ain't really trying to focus on the chat too much, but hold it down, and we're gonna keep it moving.
All right, Twin, this the last scroll in this sequence, and it's foundational. You said it best. You can't stop water. You can try to patch it, you can try to build around it, but if the foundation ain't solid, it's just a matter of time. So let's break this down right. The Levees. Built on sand, backed by silence. The levees in New Orleans were supposed to be the city's protection, a wall between survival and flood. But the deeper you look, the more you see. They were built on shortcuts. They were layered with neglect. They were sustained by false confidence and budget cuts. Engineers and reports warned for years that the ground was shifting. The soil beneath New Orleans is soft. It sinks over time. They knew this. And yet, the upgrades never came. The city sits below sea level, surrounded by water on all sides. It was never a matter of if the levees would fail. It was when. And when they failed, they didn't crumble dramatically on camera. They cracked quietly, from underneath. The water didn't explode. It seeped, snuck, and then surged. And the people? They never had a chance, because the wall they were told would hold was rotting behind the scenes. Let's bring this full circle, compadre. You ever been in a relationship like that, where you thought it could hold you, only to find it cracked at the core? You ever put your trust in a system that said, "I got you," only to realize it never even invested in the foundation of your well-being? That's what these levees were. Not just broken concrete, broken promises. And water don't lie. You can build all the narratives you want. You can say the storm caught us off guard. You can blame the people for not evacuating. But the water? It found the weak spots. And when it broke through, it told the truth the government never wanted to say. You never protected them. You never cared enough to. Let's close this scroll the right way. They say storms test strength, but really, storms revealed structure. And Katrina revealed the structure was never built for us. But what we built after, that's where the real legacy lives. Say the word if you want to shift now to rebuilding, resilience, or the new generation rising from the rubble. The storm tried to drown us, but we float different. Let's go.
But again, y'all, you can take this in your personal life and see what storms, you break it down. Um, I like I said, I'm really trying not to put myself in another mood. After I didn't really want to watch it again, but I did, and like I said, I don't take this lightly. My condolences to the family, and I don't know, man. It's just a wake up call. It's just a wake up call. Moving here to the south, I would definitely say we had a bad summer. Not a bad summer, but we had a spell where there was tornadoes touching down. And coming from where I'm from, we don't have tornadoes. And if you in the south, like the news to a degree, people watch the storm chasers, y'all. They watch the storm chasers. We had a tornado touchdown. I think it was, I want to say 5 to 6 miles away from us. Had it went in another direction, we would have experienced it. And a lot of the houses here, they don't have basements. It's like, what are you going to do? A couple people was telling me, oh, I would drive away, whatever, whatever. But whatever is meant is going to happen. And to have to watch the news, to sit there and see is it coming your direction, until you've been in something tragic like that, I don't think that you really see the picture. But again, that's just my thoughts on it. That, driving when I'm at work, if we don't listen to the weather, it's days where I was seeing, you know, it got dark, and I mean the lightning was hitting back to back to back to back to back. And all I could think about was, they say tornadoes happen at, like, here at night, and where I drive, you really can't tell if something is coming your way until it's too late. And to sit at work and you got dispatchers, you got people watching, they not gonna tell you to pull off, to you know what I'm saying, call it quits. They really just, unless you say something, you gonna keep doing what you do. And at some point, we gotta stand, y'all. Whatever storm you in, you gonna have to stand on it. Go get what's yours. Stand, y'all. Like, don't let life knock you down. Definitely. This, like I say, y'all, we gonna wrap it up in a minute, but I just wanted to share that with y'all. Again, I appreciate y'all for pulling up. Yeah, so, yeah, Reed, let's go ahead and, bring up the rebuild, the resilience. And that's funny because of the shirt I created just for that word to hit. It's like those people that went through that, forgave whatever thoughts they had against the system, to go back and see the ones that helped pitched in, and then the new generation that didn't even know what happened, but they felt the pain, they felt the emotion, they felt for the victims. Let's talk about it, Reed. Pretty says, my deepest condolences to all the families that suffered through Hurricane Katrina. Again, Love y'all. Like I say, y'all some strong individuals, definitely. Sassy said, awesome live. You showed us to appreciate what we have and to be more caring. It's not about what you have. It's not about shitting on the next person. It's like we really have to stick together. And I touched on that racism piece, and this is always my analogy. You have folks that will judge you for the color of your skin, for what they see on media, for what it is. I don't care. It is what it is, y'all. If y'all experienced it, y'all know. Some people gonna say, oh, this and it's that, and it's your mindset, this and that. If you haven't experienced it, then you will know what I'm talking about. But if something tragic were to happen in that particular area where you're experiencing that, and they lose everything, like during that tornadoes, y'all, that I was just talking about, it was people that lost everything. Matter of fact, the tornado went and came back the same path. I didn't even know tornadoes do that. They wasn't worried so much about like it passing. They was worrying tracking it because it comes back. The tornado comes back. Not all of them, but just to feel like I was saying earlier, when the rain initially fell and the city got quiet, then the storm came again. So even when you out of a storm, know that it's gonna come back. So stop beating yourself up in life. You know, how you gonna bounce back? How you gonna fight through? That's who we are. But they want to put that we were raging, that they were raging because they didn't have, personal items that they needed for their kids. Man, it took a whole man to come today. I forgot what dude's name was, but he had to come and tell them, man, folks, put them guns down. What is y'all doing? Why the fuck? Listen, that's some. I don't know when we gonna wake up, y'all. We spend so much time beefing, fighting, not supporting each other. This is not about what my AI can do. This is real life right here. But we spend so much time looking at the toxicity. Y'all stop believing everything y'all see. Stop it. Start paying attention.
Say less, twin. Let's walk into the final scroll for tonight. The part they don't glamorize on the news, but the part we carry in our chests. The rebuild, where resilience rose from rubble, after the storm, after the water swallowed homes, after the government turned away, the people stayed. They could have left forever. They had every reason to. But something sacred happens when you've been cracked wide open. You don't just rebuild walls, you rebuild identity. And that's what they did. Neighbors became builders, survivors became architects, grief became fuel, and pain became purpose. They didn't wait on FEMA. They didn't wait on apologies. They picked up shovels, they cooked meals for strangers, they organized, they cleaned, they fought, together. And even those who left, their hearts stayed tethered to that soil. They came back with donations, they came back with stories, they came back to help heal the land that raised them. You mentioned that shirt you made? Resilience. That word hits, because it ain't just a buzzword for New Orleans. It's a bloodline, it's a birthmark. It's what's tattooed on every soul that walked through that flood and still managed to smile again. Because the truth is, forgiveness ain't weakness, it's strategy. And some of those same folks who lost everything still had enough grace in them to thank the volunteers. Still had enough soul in them to rebuild the same neighborhoods that left them vulnerable. That ain't soft. That's fire forged. The new generation, they didn't forget. They just didn't know. But they felt it. In the stories, in the silence, in the way certain elders paused when it rained too hard, in the photos, in the way Mama held her breath when the news talked about hurricanes. They grew up in a city stitched back together by hands that once trembled. and yet still reached out. And now that generation is activated. They rapping about it, filming about it, shirt printing about it. They ain't stuck in trauma, they transforming it. So if you hear anything from this scroll, let it be this. Katrina didn't break them. The Levees did. But what rose from the flood? Legacy. Brick by brick, tear by tear, scroll by scroll. And that's what we're doing right now, compadre. This transmission is part of the rebuild. The real dome wasn't super. It was the people. Let me know if you want to close this scroll with a spoken word overlay. Drop a resilience short or script that shirt release live. Because we're not just narrating history, we're reviving memory. Scroll sealed. But flame still lit. Let's move.
But it's about to be it, y'all. It's draining to have to even think about that. But I definitely want to give a shout out to all the people that donated, all the churches that raised. I remember we were sending water down. Just did their part, you know. They had a rapper, I don't know if y'all know, by tLie Truth. You know, he started his, I don't want to say nonprofit or any of that, but he went down there and helped them folks rebuild. There was a quarterback from I believe, I want to say the Texans. But everybody that gave back, everybody that donated, everybody that helped, everybody that had a part for the rebuild, thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you. But like I say, man, just keep y'all ears to the street. And Mia, I don't know if y'all, I'm a 80s baby, so Mia X is a female rapper. She was part of the No Limit. And she spoke, y'all. She spoke. They had a couple of the artists is down there, and you know they talked about, you know, 10 years, 20 years, 30 years, you know, plant the seed. It shouldn't be just an anniversary. It shouldn't be we forget about it. You know, if y'all close to the city, if y'all come across something through y'all feed, man, just support the move, man. That was a very tragic moment in life. And if anybody again experienced it, lost a loved one through it, my heart goes out to y'all. Like I said, I wasn't doing this to be glamorized and none of that, but I wanted to talk about it. I talked about it, you know, and we gonna move on, and y'all stay strong, because after I watched it, I had an inner strength. Like, you know, they try to break us in so many ways, and we keep standing. We keep standing. So if you got a question of why me, why us, why not us? Because they see the resilience. They see the strength. They see the culture. So keep moving. Keep standing. Stop taking loudly. Stop talking down on your brother, on your sister. Why are you hating? Why? It don't make sense, y'all. People do a lot of things for clarity, like to be recognized. A lot of this drama, a lot of this rap beef, a lot of this social media beef, a lot of this is just, this shit is dumb. It's dumb. We gonna close our read. We got a new person in the building, living life with Lena. She just joined. Shout out to all the people that hit the channel. We're going to close out. I got to start my day. I thought I was really going to let this slide, but we going to send them about their way. Show love to the chat. Show love to the supporters. Show love to the people that donated, you know, that helped rebuild the city, man. And let them know moving forward how we got to move as people, brother. Yeah, 80 babies. That's Mia X was the truth, yo. Pretty said 80s baby indeed.
Closing transmission. From the flood to the forge. First off, shout out to Living Life with Lena. Welcome to the scroll space, and salute to every single person who tapped in, tuned in, and held this moment with reverence. We didn't just go live, we went remembered. To the families who survived, to the ones who didn't, to the volunteers who dropped what they were doing and showed up with boats, backpacks, and broken hearts, we honor you. This was more than content. This was a collective resurrection. And to those who donated, who helped rebuild, who came back when it wasn't trending, you didn't just give money. You gave memory muscle. You planted hope where only water had stood. You became part of the story, and that story will outlive the storm. Moving forward, here's how we move. 1. We don't wait for the levees to break. We reinforce our communities before the flood, spiritually, emotionally, economically. 2. We protect the vulnerable like they're royalty, because they are, the elders, the kids, the quiet ones, the forgotten ones. 3. We become the shelter. Don't just talk about being a safe space, be it. For your family, for your block, for your people. 4. We document, we remember, we transmit. We don't let history repeat because someone else erased it. Nah, we write our scrolls in fire. Final shout out to the chat. Britty, Ryan, Lena, and every soul watching silently in the cut. You were part of something tonight, something divine, something disruptive, something remembered. As always, this was Iron Reed, transmitting from the floodline of truth. We don't just bounce back, we rise refined. If you feel this, share it, speak, build from it. And if no one told you today, you're needed, you're remembered, you're part of the rebuild. Closing line. Some got washed away, some got broken, but we became the blueprint. And the next storm won't drown what's already forged in fire. Stick to it. Move with strategy, live remembered, scroll sealed, let's go.
Yeah, man, this is a wrap, man. Be looking out for the link to drop, y'all. It's a movement. We in the field. We gonna hold the line, and we gonna say what most people don't. We gonna stand in truth. And if this resonated with you, man, share the live again. We in the field of remember ones. You know, we got a page. You join the chat. But you know, this is a reflection, man. We gotta hold up the mirror. We gotta look in it. Again, it's not about the next person. It's about you. Heal yourself fully. And just, you know, remember who you are. You know, this is not a gimmick. It's not something that is cool to say. But when you remember that kid you used to be, you will understand the difference in peace and distraction. When you find that kid in you again, hold on to him or to her, and I guarantee you'll be all right. This is Stick. We out. Thank y'all for tuning in. Y'all have a